Hello all, this is Bob King on Periscope. We are talking with Michael Haynes and Angie and the world on Blab, talking about accessibility and don't judging Mike for the wheelchair he's in, judge him for the man that he is. And we've got his favorite artist here, Joe Cocker, on Pandora as we were lining up for this. And shortly, about 15 seconds, as soon as I switch this camera around and drop it in, and that is the name of the Blab Drop-Ins is Drop In. We're going to drop in a video about Mike. So this video was made for Mike, and the video I'm just starting it here before I drop it in all. The video is entitled The Things That Michael Haynes Has Taught Me, and this was from January 2015.
Wow.
And I'm getting ready to put it in here into Blab. And thank you so much to Josh Langford and the Blab team for letting us try out this unreleased new feature of Blab that is going to revolutionize the way that people can communicate, especially those with communication problems and accessibility issues, because they can share their messages. So here we go. We're going to start this video.
Baby one.
I hope that you had friends. I hope that you had an amazing Christmas. I trust that you will have a great New Year's celebration for upcoming 2015.
And please mute yourself, Mike, while this is playing.
A friend of mine who I reconnected over the holidays. And it's funny how we can let some really special people who have made a huge influence in our lives get away from us for more than a day, for crying out loud. This fellow, Michael Haynes, taught me a huge lesson in customer service and really in human kindness. When I owned a business in Kelowna quite a few years ago, he came to the door in his scooter that had a frame built around it. This frame had advertisement written on it, and I had heard him as I went to a few different businesses talking to some of the people in the businesses, and found him very difficult to understand. You see, Michael was born with cerebral palsy, and a pretty severe case that affected his speech and his walk. So listening to him talking to people, it just sounded a little bit incomprehensible. And I probably had some other thoughts at that time that I would not care to share. We all had those thoughts. Until one day when he came into my business, and holding the door open for a fellow that I didn't know should be in my store with his big cart, but reluctantly I did, and ultimately really glad. You see, this gentleman has taught me more about customer service and human kindness than any other individual I know. Michael Haynes never used the system to the degree that many people who would have challenges or disabilities would. He found a way to make his own money. In fact, that cart that had all of the rack with advertisement around was what he did, creating his own artwork and posting his own pictures, offering advertisement for daily, weekly, monthly, or yearly to make his living. Now, even though he was eking by, he felt more pride in being able to take care of that self than anybody else could. And here's the truth. Because of his lessons and what he taught me about how people can preconceive those with challenges and disabilities, really taught me about how my store should be set up and how we should respond to anybody. Now, in fact, this fellow is one of the smartest people I know. It doesn't sound like it when you first talk to him, but when you listen to what he's saying, he makes the most sense. Now, I'm really excited when he told me about his new venture, about his customer service excellence program, and how he is now offering and providing businesses with a DVD on how to understand different individuals' needs in a customer service scenario. I'm promoting this because he made such a difference to me. It's invaluable to this day. And I want for any of you guys who are in customer service industry of any sort to please consider the purchase of his DVD. It's well worth it, but it also supports a fellow who's decided to do more than what he was given and to use everything that he's got to the fullest. And really, that's the lesson for me in this particular video, is to realize that we all have resources. We all have a mind, a heart, and a spirit, that we have unlimited We're actually only limited by our own expectations, but really unlimited possibilities. So thank you, Michael Haynes. For those of you guys who will take a minute, I've posted a link just below this video. Please watch it. I hope that you guys get as much from this fellow as me, and comment. I'd really like to share with him this video and show him that the people that I associate with would appreciate where he's coming from. Thank you for taking the time to watch this video, and thank you for taking the time to watch his. I look forward to seeing you guys in New Year's, and
Wow.
Okay, so for those of you out on Periscope, and again, I am periscoping this all right, so that people can see it. For those of you that are on Periscope watching this replay later, that was a young man talking about the life lessons and customer service he learned from Mike Haynes, and we have Mike Haynes live with us here on Blab. And this Blab platform is amazing because it allows us to both have this video in here so that people can hear that story, but also hear live directly from Mike. And I'm going to now take a moment to figure out where I can prop up this iPad so that I can continue to record this as we talk. I'm now going to close this video out. Okay, so there's a question in the chat from Leverston. We are using a new an unreleased feature of Blab that has been enabled for us for this session. It's about 2 to 3 weeks away from public release. I'm hearing some. Anybody else hearing that static? I don't know where it's coming from. So, okay, but so anyway, well, there's a video, Leverston. I will drop a video in the chat that explains how it works. I don't want to take time out of Michael's chat here to explain the mechanics right now, but I will address your question. You're welcome. All right, so I'm gonna mute myself. There.
That's a real good video, Mike.
I know, it's incredible.
And to think that he did that without being coached. I love it.
Like, I cannot find this video advertising.
Yeah. That's so sweet.
One second, people, on Periscope
Well,
land.
I told you earlier that in the province of Ontario, I sat on the board committee people, I don't know what you want to call it, but there was a group of disabled professionals in with the AODA here in Ontario. And I sat on the committee for near the end of it, so I really wasn't part of the beginning, but I was there to tidy it up. And it was all about customer service too. And I love it because, you know, it's a people-oriented thing, and it's nice to know that the input that we all had as disabled adults actually got put into words, and now it's put into a law here in Ontario, and it's, you know, it's making a difference.
What is it having here? Are people do it?
I will admit, Michael, I'm having a hard time hearing you today.
Are people adhering to the law?
Can I get 1 or 2 words at a time because I'm on a headset?
Okay.
On my headset, you're muffled.
Anyhow.
You're not muffled anyhow. But it's a big difference between muffled and understanding you. And hearing you. That's the other thing. My hearing's not the greatest, so it doesn't help.
Are people obeying the law?
Oh, here in Ontario?
Yes.
Yeah, well, let's just say sometimes I would have to say yes. If you use my rule as a way to measure whether they're complying or not, I would say the big boys are, but some of the smaller merchants, they're still not there. You know, they're letting their emotion get the better of them.
Is there anything can
Well, you're in BC. I hope you can straighten out BC.
do.
But yeah, no, I haven't. Hey, hang on. I know where you're going. I haven't had a chance to see the whole DVD yet, so I can't answer that question.
Okay.
Yeah, but again, it's something that I think you have to deal with them face to face.
I agree.
Yeah. But I would, like I said earlier, most of the bigger merchants, they seem to be a little bit more accepting of it because the government does more for them. You know, they're ignoring all the businesses that have less than 50,000 employees.
Hey, Roy, I'm promoting this right now on social media. Roy, would you mind coming in so I can bounce out of the seat and better promote this out there?
Oh, hey, Bob. Oh, damn. Bob's a fast dumper.
Yeah.
Hi, Mr. Michael. Oh, you can still hear me. Yeah, that's a good point, Bob. I was noticing when the video was playing that I tried to tweet. It wouldn't let me tweet. Why?
Oh. I know.
Huh?
Roy. How are you?
I'll try tweeting again now that the video is done.
Daryl.
Yeah,
I'm in
yeah, because the window does pop up. Yeah, and I click the share now button and nada, nothing. Ooh. The X works.
Daryl.
Yo, Roy.
Hey. Are you not talking today?
I don't know, did he mute himself?
If you look in the chat, he said he was having some issues with audio. He's working on it right now.
Ah.
No problem.
Yeah, so why doesn't the share button work? Any idea?
So Angie, the notify has been a bit buggy lately. The share
Okay.
functions are been a bit buggy lately. So one thing again, and this is why I asked somebody else to come in and help, sustain the chat some while I do this. I work with 4 monitors, so I'm over here making a screenshot, then I'm building a tweet and I'm putting it out. So I'm manually building some tweets to share this. And so I'm going to bounce back out again. We should hear Roy.
Roy.
He's working on it. Let's see.
Test.
There we go. Hey, we hear you, Roy.
Yay, I heard that.
Hey, yeah, I don't know what's going on. So I got audio until I don't. No, I'll just refresh again. So hi, Michael. Hi, Angie.
Hello, Roy.
Roy.
Hey guys, I love your title, Michael. You know, it's
Hey, you know what?
unfortunate.
Yeah, what?
Go ahead, Angie.
No, you're saying something. Go first.
I was just saying it's unfortunate that people judge people because, we look at the outward and then we immediately have some frame of reference on an earlier experience. So if someone's in a wheelchair and you had a bad experience, then you're going to blame Michael for that bad experience, and you don't even know Michael.
Yeah, man, it's all Michael's fault.
It's all Michael's fault. It's like, you're in a wheelchair like that other guy, and he was a jerk to me, so Michael must be a jerk. I mean, I don't know. That's just the way some people think. I don't think like that.
It's the way society has evolved.
Say that again, what?
The way society has evolved.
The way society has evolved. Yeah, they get the majority rules. You know how we can change that, though? We can knock everybody's kneecaps out. Make everybody in a wheelchair.
Or Michael can just keep showing up like this every day over here, and pretty soon people will get the right message and go, oh, so not everybody who's in a wheelchair needs to be judged this way.
Yeah.
Oh, look, Michael's a really cool guy. Oh, look, I like Michael. Michael's my friend. And this is how we change perceptions one person at a time, by showing them that their perception is not reality. And
George Lewis, sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt, but
don't worry.
I saw George in another room. George is following me. Yeah, but you know what? I was thinking about Michael's title. Don't judge me for the wheelchair I'm in, judge me for the man I am. And now I'm thinking the opposite. Don't judge me for the shoes I'm in, judge me for the woman I am. Boo. Bad joke.
I'm sorry, but that wasn't work for me.
Yeah. Oh, what was it? There's something that popped in my head. I was going to share with you, Michael, and now I think it just popped out. It's one of those days, something comes in, something goes out. But the question that you asked earlier is that some of the smaller merchants, even though I think they're still courteous, they still have that little doubtful look in their eye. You know, like I could be there and I'm the one with the credit card, and you know, I'd be with somebody else and they're looking at them for payment. It's like me, okay, here, that's what it was I was going to tell you. It was my sister and I, we go to a mall, and I was in the market for a new purse. I wanted something that was small, easy to open, and had enough slot for credit cards. What woman doesn't like credit cards, eh? But anyway, so we went looking. And there was this little, what do you call those guys that have their little carts in the middle of the aisleways inside the mall? Like, you know, they're not in a store, but they have their cart outside, right? Yeah. So I go in and I start looking at these purses. The man took the purse from me and turned to my sister and said, "How can I help you?" Yeah. My sister's a big girl, okay? My sister grabbed the purse and said, "Well, you know what? You just lost the sale." And she threw the purse back in the pile. She was the one that wanted it, not me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, have you looked at that video?
Which one?
My video.
The one that you emailed me?
Yeah.
I got to the first 3 minutes.
I gotta go. I gotta go. My wife needs me. I might be back. Bye.
Thanks, Roy.
Bob, I want to talk to you a little later. I might do a blab tonight or later today. If you're going to be around, I'd like to talk to you about it a little bit, if you're interested. If you're there. I gotta go.
Yeah. See ya.
Bye.
Yeah, too late. God, bye. Hey, people are really fast. Yeah, George, you're right. The guy should have been listening.
Hey, all. Yeah, well, like you said, you know, his wife's gotta go. And if I know, if Roy's anything like me, that meant 10, 15 minutes ago, she said, "Hey, Roy, we gotta go." And he said, "Just a second," 3 or 4 times, right? So that's why.
Yeah, you gotta run.
Right. So I'm.
Smart man.
So that tweet that's in there right now, what's cool about that is you can, depending upon the size of your monitor, you can sometimes retweet it right from within there, but you can definitely click on that, and then it will open that tweet in a new tab, and you can retweet it, right? And so,
here's a question.
Yes.
If I were to copy the URL now for this blab, and I send it out to Twitter, it would lead them to here, wouldn't it?
They would not. Well, if you send it out to Twitter, then they could click that link and come in and watch. Yes, but
right.
Yeah. And I'm also periscoping it, so I'm going to put this link in here. All right. So that link right there is the Periscope feed of this. So that, and I'm going to, let me see, I'm going to move my camera for a moment so you can see what I'm seeing here. Just a second. Okay. Just a minute. So I know I have more string than that. There we go. So if I back this up a little bit further, what you see here is my iPad in front of my monitor, so that what we do with the drop-ins is going out live feed on Periscope. All right. Now, right now, I mean, I'm new to Periscope. I've been on it for all of about a week, and you know, there's 0 viewers here right now. But if we get this tweeted out, which is what I'm working on, maybe we can get some other people to catch this live feed. And
yeah, I just sent one out too.
Yeah. So, all right. So that's what's going on and what I'm doing. So so that's why I'm dropping out, because right now I have to go like this because I'm looking around my iPad, right? So, but we're gonna get some traction here, and because it's being recorded, and this Periscope will also be out on catch.me, so it's not going to go away in 24 hours. So, all right.
So, Michael, what angle are you going with? Okay. So you're just going to take it whatever comes your way, right? Okay. Oh, okay. Did they pay you?
I don't do nothing.
Oh. Hey, by the way, what time is it where you are right now?
It's 1 o'clock in the afternoon.
It's when?
1.
1. Okay, so that makes me 3 hours ahead of you.
Yeah.
Okay, so if I'm 3 hours ahead of you, I am doing a my first interviewee, even though they're scheduled for the 23rd, they're not very computer minded, so they want to come in on the 8th to do a dry run. So if you want to see a bunch of bloopers happening, you can come in and watch it. Because I'll be teaching them how to navigate and what to expect in a blab. The poor man doesn't even know how to use Skype.
Oh, man.
Yeah. So it's going to be pretty funny.
Boy.
He never even had a webcam. He actually went out and bought a webcam just because I asked for an interview.
I'm glad
Yeah.
that that would be really weird.
Yeah, well, he said he's old school. He used a paper and pen. So this will be fun.
You need to get with the Brooklyn.
Well, yeah, and oh, by the way, you know, what's her name? Oh, let me think. Marietta?
Yeah,
Okay, did I get that right?
yeah.
Marietta is gonna be my co-host, but she won't be on video. She said she'll just be in the chat.
Good.
So hopefully, if I screw up, she'll be there to pick me up.
You won't.
No, I might.
How long have you been in lab?
I don't know. You'd have to check my profile. Not very long, maybe 3 or 4 weeks at most.
Uh-oh.
It doesn't tell me, does it? 25 days on Blab.
I've been on top of you today.
Say that again?
I've been on your today.
200 days, yeah. Much longer than me. I didn't even know the day that so mine is 44 days, and that's the day that I first heard of Blab. I mean, I didn't wait to join. The day I learned about it, and an hour later I was, watching Peter Shankman and Joel Comm on Blab. Hey, I put out in chat, you guys. What do you think? I'm out here again. I'm pushing some hashtags. I'm doing some other things. I don't want to. I want to make sure. I know you have pretty good endurance, but I didn't want to wear you out, right? So there's this short 5-minute video. It's the same woman that had that life story one earlier, but this is a different one.
Oh, yeah.
It's called Beautifully Different, and it's got some nice images in it. And I want to see what you guys thought about if we played that for a few minutes while we try to build up an audience. But it's up to you, Mike. It's your blab.
Yeah. I love videos.
Okay, so we're going
love
to.
videos.
Yeah, is that cool with you too, Angie?
Oh yeah, I have no problem with
Okay,
it.
got it. So, and the thing is, if someone else does come into the room, I'm pretty certain that any of the co-hosts can click on the video and pause it, not just the person that dropped it in. So I just made Angie a co-host also, and that helps too, Angie, in case we do get any trolls or anything, right? So I
need a little more experience under the belt.
Well, it's just mostly it's like here. Watch
my
this.
dog.
I'm gonna, Angie. This is how quick the training is. Mike, I do not understand you. Speak clear. I'm not gonna really, so I just put that in chat, okay? And maybe it was much worse than that, but I'm not gonna use bad words. Angie, that's horrible. I don't want that there, but I'm talking. I can't delete it myself. Just go over there to the.
Okay, I see the man.
Yep, just there. It's gone now.
Yep.
Right.
Okay.
There you go.
Yeah.
Now you're a trained co-host. It was that quick, right?
Thanks, coach.
And then now the other thing, please don't do this, right? But click on my profile name when it comes up in the box.
Name? Okay.
All right. Do you see Bob King? You remove me from in the upper left-hand corner. There's a little X next.
that triangle?
No, not the triangle.
Okay, the X. Okay.
Okay. So hover over the triangle and read what it says.
Report and block user from stream.
Yeah. So don't do that, please, to me. But if there's somebody that's spamming bad stuff, instead of just deleting them over and over and over, you can just kick them out of the room.
Okay.
But it also reports them. There's no in between. You can't just kick them out of the room without reporting. So generally, I try to say, give them a warning and say, hey, please leave, or don't. If you're going to be here, remain respectful. But then if they don't,
3 strikes, you're out.
Yeah, whatever your own rule is. Okay.
Right. Okay.
And now I'm going to drop in that other video.
Cool. Wow, man, I got a hammer in my hand. Yeah, well, this was the thing I was worried about when I was talking to Marietta, sorry. It's like Bob said, you're doing one thing, but you're going to be able to do all of it at the same time. Ooh. Yeah, I've been there myself. Yeah, eh? Oh, right.
conference, you can
What you're seeing out there on Periscope is a live blab with Michael Haynes and Angie, where we're using a blab drop-ins feature to play videos and show how technology can improve the communications and overcome ignorance of people that don't understand those with disabilities.
Wow. That was cute.
So, what'd you guys think of that?
That was cute. I liked it.
And
The way them dog kitty
yep,
cartoony kind of drawing from a kid, eh?
yep. And I shared that out on Twitter also with Charisse. I presume that's how you say her name. So that, you know, again, and Michael, one thing I would say for these, and I have this myself, is, you know, I have an idea and I want to immediately launch it, right? So today I took an appetite suppressant and I scheduled a blab for 5 o'clock tomorrow afternoon so that we could get, so that I could build more info up for it, right? So what I would say is, you know, let's do this same topic a day or two from now and, you know, get more attention ahead of time, and I think we'll be able to, right, you know, get it on people's radars.
Yeah.
So
I just being notified that supper is being started.
okay,
So no idea how long it will take for supper to be completed.
and here is the tweet that I put out to Charisse.
Oh. Okay, that's cool.
Hey, Trev, I see that you're back. If I drop out of the seat, can you come in, Trev? Keep my company because Angie needs to go to dinner and I'm doing some social media promotion. We're gonna get Trev in here eventually.
Bend his arm.
Oh, Trev is in the kitchen. Okay, all right.
See, everybody's at the kitchen time.
Yeah, it is lunchtime. So,
What time you got, Bob?
here it's 3 o'clock. I'm in Kansas City, or near Kansas City,
Okay.
so it's Central Time. Are you Eastern
So I'm an
Time?
hour ahead of you, yeah.
Yeah. Where are you located, Angie?
Ontario.
Okay.
Just north of Toronto.
Got it. All right. So how long did you want to we've been running for an hour already, Mike. Did you want to go ahead and, could we have it all recorded? Because since I've been periscoping it, this recording will be available. So.
I can go on another hour.
Okay, all right. So, what would you like to play next? So, one suggestion is I could find, and we can work on this together. I was going to go out and see if I could find a good video on YouTube that's not too long, but does a good job of explaining cerebral palsy.
Yes.
If that's, and I noticed in the video from that young man that we played, I noticed he said cerebral, not cerebral. So I will start, so.
Oh, yeah, I never caught that. That's bad. I missed that one.
Well, I didn't know. But one thing I like about YouTube is you can filter by length. So I went for shorter than 4 minutes, and then I'm gonna go by the view count. We'll see here.
I didn't know you could do that on YouTube.
Yeah, it's pretty handy because then you can sort by view count, you can sort by ratings, and then you can get.
Oh, they've certainly upgraded themselves since I started.
Okay, here's one that looks good. This one's called. Oh, wait a minute.
Right.
I like this better. Khan Academy, which is, it's the free online courses like for math and all that. I didn't know that they have a video on this, and it's longer than my filter. But let's try this from the beginning, and since you're all co-hosts, if you decide you want to exit out, you can. But this should be pretty interesting. So.
Oh, then mute.
Yep, and then Mike, if you'll, just make sure you self-mute yourself when the video starts, please. Thanks.
So cerebral palsy is actually an umbrella term that we use to describe a group of disorders that affect a person's ability to move in a normal way. And cerebral palsy sort of occurs because of damage to the developing brain, maybe caused by an infection or loss of oxygen for some reason. And this damage, it usually occurs during early development, anywhere from in utero to about toddlerhood. And it happens while the brain is still undergoing really critical development. So the damage occurs in parts of the brain that control our movements. And this damage is permanent, but it's not progressive. So the initial damage to the brain, it doesn't worsen over time, but the problems with movements, they do persist for the affected person's entire life. So now that we know a little bit more about cerebral palsy, we can make a bit more sense of the name. So cerebral means brain, so this is where the damage is. And palsy means muscle weakness or loss of function. So this is describing the main problem that arises from this damage in the brain. So let's highlight the general parts of the brain here that are involved in movement. So these will typically be the areas that get damaged to cause cerebral palsy. So we've got the cerebellum and the motor cortex. These are the two bits that we can see looking at the brain from the outside. And then if we go a little bit deeper inside the core of the brain, we've got the basal ganglia. So these parts of our brain, we can think of them as our movement centers, and what they're involved in are things like helping us make movements. So they help us coordinate and move our arms and our legs and our torsos, but they also help us to maintain our balance and control our posture and our muscle tone and our reflexes. So it kind of follows that when either of these movement centers themselves or the tracts of neurons that they use to communicate with each other and our muscles, when any of these are damaged during development, the person will develop problems with their movements, and that's what we call cerebral palsy. So one of the interesting issues with cerebral palsy is that the amount of trouble that each person has with their movements can vary a lot between different people. So let's explore this a little bit further. Let's draw a severity spectrum here for cerebral palsy. So the further to the right we go, the more trouble the person has with their movements. So on our left here, on the mild end of our spectrum, we'll have people who aren't too badly affected from a sort of functional day-to-day point of view. So this little boy here, it looks like he's able to walk and run around pretty well. And we know that cerebral palsy can cause trouble with posture and balance and coordination. So because this boy is able to run around like this, we would say that he's not too severely affected. his form of cerebral palsy is quite mild. He'll still have some movement problems. Maybe he can't run quite as fast as someone without cerebral palsy, or maybe he has some trouble with coordination, so maybe something like running and throwing a ball at the same time. But overall, he's able to function pretty well on a day-to-day basis. But if we head over here to the severe end of our spectrum, the picture looks quite different. So this girl here also has cerebral palsy, but instead of being able to run around, she needs to be in a wheelchair. And it looks like she's having trouble with her posture, so she needs to be held upright. And you know, her cerebral palsy is so severe that she can't really get around by herself in her chair. It looks like she needs someone to operate it for her. So let's actually relabel the ends of our spectrum here so that we're painting a better picture of how wide this range of movement problems really is in cerebral palsy. So let's say that the severity spectrum for cerebral palsy goes from running to wheelchair and everything in between. So this gives us a pretty good idea of how wide that range of movement problems can be. So what we're actually looking at here is something called the Gross Motor Function Classification System, or the GMFCS. And each of these pictures here actually represents the different levels of the GMFCS. So this system is a really useful way for characterizing the severity of someone's cerebral palsy. It gives us a good, fairly standard way to get an idea of a person's movement abilities or their movement impairments. So let's leave this for a moment and go back to those damaging events that I mentioned, the events that damage the movement centers during development and cause cerebral palsy. So let's make another spectrum here, and this time we'll make a spectrum of causes, and we'll make this spectrum a little different. Let's go from nature on this end to nurture on this end. And nature refers to things that we're born with, right? Things that are innate, like our genes.
So what are you thinking of this one, Michael? Thumbs up if you want me to keep playing.
Or our chromosomes. And by nurture, we're referring to our environment after we're born, so all of our personal experiences. And actually, different causes of cerebral palsy can happen at different periods of early development. So let's do some color coding as well. So anything that I write on this spectrum in blue, that's happening before birth, so prenatally. And anything that I write in green, that's going to be happening during the birth process, so perinatally. And anything in this nice salmon color here can be for things that happen after birth, up to the first few years of life, so postnatally. Alright, so let's start with events that can occur before birth, so in utero. So all the way over on the nature end of our spectrum, we can put genetics. So there are a few genetic causes of cerebral palsy. So mom or dad, maybe they inadvertently passed on a mutated gene that results in damage to one of these movement centers in the brain. But these are pretty rare causes of cerebral palsy. So the rest of the prenatal events that can cause cerebral palsy kind of fall in between nature and nurture. They happen before birth, they are prenatal causes, but they have a bit more to do with the environment that the fetus is in. So we'll put these prenatal events around here on our spectrum of causes. So the first event that will pop down here is infections. Infections that the fetus gets from mom, so congenital infections. And one group of congenital infections that can cause cerebral palsy is a group referred to as the torch infections. And torch is a pneumonic, or toxoplasmosis, rubella, cytomegalovirus, and herpes simplex virus. And there are actually two types of herpes simplex virus, type 1 and 2, so we'll put both of these down. And I love this one for last on purpose because it's kind of a catch-all. So the O stands for other, just kind of because we had to make the mnemonic fit somehow, but we can put other infections down here like syphilis in this group, because even though they don't really start with any of these letters, they can still cause cerebral palsy. So other things that can go wrong in the prenatal period, well, we can run into some problems with the placenta. So if we check out our developing fetus here, here's the placenta and here's the umbilical cord. So these two are what allow the fetus to get oxygen and nutrient-rich blood from mom. So sometimes the placenta, it doesn't form properly, or it can be damaged during gestation. And when this happens, the placenta can't really do its job of delivering oxygen and all of those important nutrients to the fetus, which the fetus really counts on to develop properly. So we call this placental insufficiency, and this is another possible cause of cerebral palsy. And one other thing that we'll put down here in our prenatal period is prematurity. So this is when a baby is born early, defined as before 37 weeks of development in utero. And just to put that in some context, a baby that's born on time, and we call these babies term babies, they're born around the 40-week mark. And one of the main reasons that we're putting down prematurity here on our causes spectrum is because the brain brains of premature babies can be really fragile and susceptible to damage. And there's actually a particular kind of brain damage that premature babies are at risk for that can cause cerebral palsy. And this is called periventricular leukomalacia, or PVL for short. So periventricular means around the brain ventricles, which play a part in keeping our brain nourished. And leuko, which means white, refers to the white matter in the brain. So PVL is a type of brain injury of the white matter of the brain that lives around the ventricles. And it turns out that the vast majority of babies with PVL end up developing cerebral palsy because these periventricular areas, they contain some really important tracts of neurons that are involved in controlling our movements. So prematurity puts a baby at risk for developing PVL, and PVL often causes cerebral palsy. So maybe we'll put PVL here in brackets beside prematurity just so that we remember one of the main reasons that we're putting prematurity down here on our causes spectrum. So what about the perinatal period? What sort of events can occur during the birth process and cause cerebral palsy? Well, if mom has one of those torch infections, instead of the fetus getting it during pregnancy, mom might actually pass on one of these infections to her baby during the birth process as the baby is coming out of the birth canal. So we can put torch infections down here again, this time as a perinatal cause of cerebral palsy. And you can see that we're trending down our spectrum a bit, progressively to the right towards the nurture end. And that's because we're kind of getting into the realm of nurture. We're moving more towards those environmental causes that happen after birth. So the second perinatal event that we can put down here is oxygen deprivation, or birth asphyxia. And this happens when something gets in the way of the baby's ability to breathe. So for example, if the umbilical cord gets caught around the baby's neck while it's being delivered. So we actually used to think that this lack of oxygen, because of complications at birth, like problems with the umbilical cord, was the cause of cerebral palsy. But now we know that this type of event only accounts for a handful of cases of cerebral palsy, less than about 10%, and that the majority of things that go wrong and cause cerebral palsy actually happen during the prenatal period. So now let's go on and look at events that can happen during the postnatal period. And remember, here we're referring to the period after birth up until the first few years of age. And now we can jump all the way over here to the nurture end of our spectrum of causes. So here we've got things like head trauma, so maybe the baby's brain was damaged during a car accident, or maybe they had a near drowning experience and that deprived them of oxygen, and this damaged the brain. Because remember that our brain tissues really rely on oxygen in order to stay nice and healthy. And on that note, we can put down stroke as another cause. This is another event that reduces oxygen flow to the brain, which can damage those developing movement centers. And it's really important to note that strokes don't just happen in elderly people. They can happen in infants too, and they can cause cerebral palsy. And let's make our last example infections. And the major cerebral palsy causing infection we can see postnatally is actually not a torch infection. It's bacterial meningitis. So this is when the meninges, the protective coverings that we have around our brain and our spinal cord, when these become infected. So in meningitis, you get this really large inflammatory reaction around these parts of the brain. There's essentially a war going on between our immune system and the meningitis-causing bacteria. And if you've ever seen any war movies or taken any history classes, just imagine what the battlefield looks like when the war is over, or even while it's still raging. It's pretty damaged. And unfortunately, in meningitis, our brain is the battlefield and can thus become quite damaged. So if this battle goes on around any of the movement areas, then we can end up with cerebral palsy. And by the way, I should clarify that these damaging events, they can cause cerebral palsy, but they won't cause it every time that they happen. So in other words, it's totally possible for someone to have one of these events occur and not develop cerebral palsy.
So that's the that's the end of that video, Mike. What did you think? Was that educational? Make sure you unmute yourself.
I thought it was very informative.
And I'm out. Go ahead.
I really thought there was things in there I didn't even know.
All right. Well, that's awesome. So I'm going to make sure that can I right click on this? Yep, come on in.
Looks like kittens are coming soon.
Okay. I was just informed our kittens may be coming soon. That's pretty cool. So here's something you can do, and I'm learning things new too about this. Right click over that video image in the Blab window, and you get an option to copy the video URL. And so then I can paste it here. Then, so now we can say, hey, it's there for anybody else that wants to access it later. You can add that to your favorites or your bookmarks, Mike. And I'm also putting it over in the that Google document.
That's great.
So, and that one was called, I just gotta get the title here, because I'm gonna get the title too. And so that, yeah, there's the embed code. Thank you, Trev. So that was the Khan Academy, what is cerebral palsy and what causes it, and it's the cerebellum, so cerebral. Well, anyway, yeah, it's either way we say it, we both know what we mean, right? But so I also want to share. We have had someone join here. I'm looking to see D-Bay, hello. We're talking with Mike from Canada, and I'm going to get that link for the Google Notes. I don't know if I put it in since Trev has been here. So we do have a Google document, Trev, where we're putting in some notes and resources and comments. So yeah, and
how come I have feedback?
I don't know. Maybe it's, I'm turning, it might have been, I had my speaker turned up so I could, because that video on that Khan Academy one seemed a little bit low, so I turned up my speakers. Is the feedback better now?
Yeah.
Okay. And
Can you hear me now?
I can hear, yep, no, I can hear you fine, absolutely. And
You're not wearing your headphones.
no, I'm not wearing my headphones right now, because if I wear my headphones, then the audio won't go out through the iPad for the Periscope.
Okay, good.
So what I was thinking about, I'm going to go check on our cats and such, Mike. So what I was going to do is I can't remember that young man's name. 1 second. Your friend, just saying here. So the gentleman the things that Michael Haynes taught me, what's that young man's name? Do you recall? It's okay. But what I'm going to do is I was going to drop that video back in again and let it play, because that's a really cool one. Is that all right? Okay. And I'm also going to make Trev a co-host, so that when I'm away, if you need any help, he'll be a co-host already.
I don't think I will. I've been doing this longer than you
Good morning,
have.
my friends. I hope that you had an amazing Christmas and trust that you will have a great New Year's celebration for upcoming 2015.
Oh,
I want to talk to you about a friend of mine who I reconnected over the holidays, and it's funny how we just
Mike, make sure you mute yourself when the video is playing.
our lives.
Thank you. I know it's going to be a habit. See, for me,
This fellow,
it's a little easier because my hardware mic's right in front of me, so I just press this red button right here.
really in human kindness. I want to talk to you about a friend of mine who I reconnected over the holidays, and it's funny how we can let some really special people who have made a huge influence in our lives get away from us for more than a day, for crying out loud. This fellow, Michael Haynes, taught me a huge lesson in customer service and really in human kindness. When I owned a business in Kelowna quite a few years ago, he came to the door in his scooter that had a frame built around it. This frame had advertisement written on it, and I had heard him as I went to a few different businesses talking to some of the people in the businesses, and found him very difficult to understand. You see, Michael was born with cerebral palsy, and a pretty severe case that affected his speech and his walk. So listening to him talking to people, it just sounded a little bit uncomprehendable. And I probably had some other thoughts at that time that I would not care to share. We all had those thoughts. Until one day when he came into my business, and holding the door open for a fella that I didn't know should be in my store with his big cart, but reluctantly I did, and ultimately really glad. You see, this gentleman has taught me more about customer service and human kindness than any other individual I know. Michael Haynes never used the system to the degree that many people who would have challenges or disabilities would. He found a way to make his own money. In fact, that cart that had all of the rack with advertisement around was what he did, creating his own artwork and posting his own pictures, offering advertisement for daily, weekly, monthly, or yearly to make his living. Now, even though he was eking by, he felt more pride in being able to take care of that self than anybody else could. And here's the truth. Because of his lessons and what he taught me about how people can preconceive those with challenges and disabilities, really taught me about how my store should be set up and how we should respond to anybody. Now, in fact, this fellow is one of the smartest people I know. It doesn't sound like it when you first talk to him, but when you listen to what he's saying, he makes the most sense. I'm really excited when he told me about his new venture, about his customer service excellence program, and how he is now offering and providing businesses with a DVD on how to understand different individuals' needs in a customer service scenario. I'm promoting this because he made such a difference to me. It's invaluable to this day. And I want for any of you guys who are in customer service industry of any sort to please consider the purchase of his DVD. It's well worth it, but it also supports a fellow who's decided to do more than what he was given and to use everything that he's got to the fullest. And really, that's the lesson for me in this particular video, is to realize that we all have resources. We all have a mind, a heart, and a spirit, that we have unlimited. We're actually only limited by our own expectations, but we're really unlimited possibilities. So thank you, Michael Haynes. For those of you guys who will take a minute, I've posted a link just below this video. Please watch it. I hope that you guys get as much from this fellow as me, and comment. I'd really like to share with him this video and show him that the people that I associate with would appreciate where he's coming from. Thank you for taking the time to watch this video, and thank you for taking the time to watch his. I look forward to seeing you guys in the New Year's, and have a great day.
Okay, so now I can exit that one out. All right. So, hey Mike. Oh, I'm going to stop the Periscope here too. Just a second. So we've been talking with Mike. We've been talking with Angie and Roy Montero, and talking about how Blab and Periscope and Blab's drop-in features can allow people to better communicate and connect with each other. And so I'm going to suspend. This is Bob King for the Periscope, Down Periscope, signing off.